When it comes to the God of Abraham, is there any single example of someone finding God or discovering the God of Abraham without a priest, prophet, or book first introducing them and telling them in advance about its principles? What's up, family? It's Justin here with Bust and Jest, and if you are like me and interested in topics of apologetics and skepticism, then make sure you stick around, subscribe, and check out my other videos because I'm sure that they will be both challenging and fascinating for you if you're into this topic. Let me just jump right into this and discuss this with you for a few minutes because although it may seem like an incredibly simple thing, to me, I don't think it's something that should ever be overlooked as a rational thinker. When it comes to the God of Abraham, is there a single example of any person discovering or finding God without a priest, prophet, or book introducing them and telling them what to believe in advance? One might say that the prophets found God personally, but the prophets, if they were even real at all knew the scriptures beforehand and were selected by God because of their religious adherence to his ways. The prophets were considered holy vessels because they were already adhered to the laws of God faithfully and were set apart for his service beforehand. One might also say that God reached out to Moses personally without any former introduction. But Moses was also raised as an elite who would have been familiar with the Hebrew beliefs and cultures beforehand as well. And that, of course, is if we assume that Moses even existed. For a long time, secular scholars were willing to state that he may have, but most these days realize that there really is no evidence that he did at all. So not having any proof that Moses even existed at all, and since he himself is a character from the very questionable source that I'm referring to, Moses himself is out. So Jesus is out for the same reasons as well, actually. Besides that, Jesus was trained supposedly in the Hebrew scriptures and the Hebrew laws from childhood. So if Jesus were to start speaking about the God of Abraham, he also wouldn't have been doing it through direct revelation either. It would have been something that he was taught. So can we find in history any known person, any historical known person who has found the God of Abraham through direct revelation without being informed about him by any other human being? Paul is out because he was considered the Pharisee of Pharisees. Remember in Philippians 3:5, he goes on and on about how he was raised among these religious elite. He learned about the biblical traditions and the ideas the same way that everyone else did, through priest, prophet, and books. Perhaps a new Moses or Abraham could have appeared through history at some point, maybe some prophet, maybe Joseph Smith of Mormonism, but unfortunately he can't count either since he read the Bible religiously before he had his supposed visions from God. Here's how I know with great certainty that the God of Abraham is a man-made fictional character. He never appears to anyone at all. The only time anyone knows of him, speaks of him, or tells tall tales of his powers, they're working off of ideas someone else told them or something they read in the Bible itself. Even the Bible itself copies hundreds of its ideas from other previously published works, so even its originality is called into suspicion by nearly every known secular scholar. It seems to me without the man-made Bible and without man-made threats, God himself has no real power at all. That's one of the many reasons I half chuckle when false prophets show up in my comments to tell me that God is mad at me and he's going to destroy my family. No, actually, you are just mad at me, and you would love to see my house destroyed just so you can feel comfortable within your own delusion. But you yourself are not God, and God certainly did not talk to you. You're simply repeating things you read or heard somewhere, and God didn't actually come to your house and talk to you and tell you your prophecy. Honestly, if God was such a tough guy, I don't think he would really trash talk at all. He would simply just act. I've been lucky enough to hang around some of the toughest people in the world, and trust me, they don't talk a whole lot of trash. They just take the trash out. Why then does the God of Abraham need a bunch of emotionally charged, pissed off females to talk shit for him and to threaten me with their prophecies of my looming destruction in my comment section? If God were sincerely ready to destroy me or anyone else, he would just do it instead of sending droves of lying, schizophrenic, half-cocked Pentecostal false prophets to my comment section. Not a very good warning if you ask me. It's a weak empty and so unfortunately Christian behavior to become so frustrated with the skeptical ideas that I'm sharing that the lying schizo false prophets, begin imagining the destruction and harm of my family and myself, and then projecting those feelings over the internet as if they are legitimate threats from the God of Abraham himself. Prophets of Yahweh, you are not the God of Abraham. Let him speak for himself. You are the ones with the God complex. He's not talking through you. You're talking for yourself, and literally no one is fooled. If you're running around warning people about things that God told you, then either A, you should book yourself a mental health session, or B, you're the first person God showed up to talk to in modern history, and you absolutely cannot prove that. If anyone could prove unemotionally and with facts and objective evidence, especially modern evidence, that the God of Abraham interacts with mankind in any way, shape, or form, I'd still happily be a Christian, as that would make things much easier for everyone. By now, I'd be well on my way to 100,000 subscribers, 300 patrons, and a metric F-ton of emotional and social support. Currently, however, the religion appears to be just a bunch of dudes and some women trash-talking with no real power and no real presence. Alas, as a rationalist, I cannot follow this emotional manipulation called Christianity any longer. I know it's the most comfortable thing for most Christians to cling to, and in many ways I empathize deeply with the mindset and I understand the position. I held the same position of comfort for nearly 37 years. In the Marine Corps, I attended 4 major internationally renowned leadership schools, each one lasting 6 to 8 weeks long. They were a challenging and demanding physical and mental test of our commitment to excellence, our knowledge, and our application of the leadership principles. For 13 years, the concepts of strong leadership were drilled into me. As a corporal, sergeant, and staff sergeant, it was up to me to guide my Marines using good leadership principles. Justice, judgment, dependability, integrity, decisiveness, bearing, unselfishness, courage, knowledge, loyalty, and endurance lead every process in great leaders who genuinely care about their men and women below them. At one point, I had 153 Marines under my charge. I was meritoriously promoted ahead of my peers twice, and I was unfortunate enough to fight in the bloodiest battles of the Iraq War during my second combat deployment. You can say that I'm only telling you all this just to flex or because I'm obsessed with myself, if you like. The reality, however, is that I tell you this because I know what good leadership is and I know what good leadership is not. Being approachable is one of the most important matters of long-term leadership philosophy. This is the ability to allow juniors, especially junior Marines in my case, even brand new ones with practically no rank, to walk right up to you, a higher ranking, more experienced person, as their leader, and allows them to ask you any questions they like without being reprimanded just for their curiosity. This is called being approachable. Unfortunately, too many Marines and civilian managers fail in this area, and they get super angry with juniors who approach them. They'll say, "You should waste someone else's time with these type of questions." But they don't realize that in being unapproachable, they immediately lose some of the trust and respect and faith that was initially placed in them because of their higher rank and because of their experience. To me, if God is not rational and logical by any known definition, and if God is not willing to answer the simple questions of those of us who are looking for him with rational methods, trying to understand his leadership, his ways, his desires, and his plans, then he's simply not worth following. God is apparently unapproachable. Heck, he isn't even here at all. That is, of course, unless a priest, prophet, or book speaks on his behalf. By the way, in such an unclear manner as to spawn 30 to 40,000 different denominational understandings of his clear word. Here's a perfect example of a self-contradicting set of scriptures to close with and make my final point. 1 John 1:18 says, "No man hath seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he hath declared him." Okay. What about Moses and the elders, though? In Exodus 24:9-11, it says, "Then went up Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, And they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet as it were a paved work of sapphire stone, and as it were a body of heaven in his clearness. And upon the nobles of the children of Israel he laid not his hand. Also they saw God, and did eat and drink. So not only do these two verses from 1 John and Exodus contradict each other and contradict themselves, both of them prove my point entirely. Only specific people through history have been allowed to supposedly see God, leaving the rest of us to have faith in the priests and have faith in the prophets and have faith in the writings, but not to have faith in God himself, whom we've never seen. He personally has never actually shown up to introduce himself to any of us. But hey, as the wizard from Wizard of Oz once said, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Again, I'm Justin with Bust and Jest. If you appreciate the content, make sure you don't forget to subscribe, like, and of course, leave me a comment below with your thoughts on the video. Talk to you guys again soon on Bust and Jest. Peace. Oh, one last thing. Jackie is hoping to come on with me very soon for a live stream. We might actually do a live stream tonight, but we're having her on again very soon, and we want to do more Q&A. So we're looking forward to touching base with you guys on that. So stick around for that very soon. All right, guys. See you later. Have a good weekend. Talk to you soon.